I pulled into my driveway 3 days early from my business trip and noticed an unfamiliar black Audi parked where I usually park. Lynn and I had been married for 8 wonderful years or so, I thought. Earlier that day, she had texted me saying we needed to talk when I got back, but something in her message felt off. I had this strange feeling in my gut as I approached our front door and spotted a pair of men's shoes that definitely were not mine sitting neatly by the entrance. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you are new here, hit that like and subscribe button to follow my journey of betrayal and how I turned the tables when they least expected it. I met Lynn during our senior year of college at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was studying marketing while I focused on computer science. The first time we spoke, she spilled her drink on my new shirt, and instead of being annoyed, I found her flustered apologies endearing. We exchanged numbers that night, and within 6 months, we were inseparable. After graduation, we both landed great jobs in the same city. Lynn quickly climbed the corporate ladder at a prestigious marketing firm, while I built my career as a software engineer. 3 years of dating culminated in a beautiful summer wedding at her parents' lakeside property. I remember how radiant she looked walking down the aisle, her smile brighter than the sun reflecting off the water. We promised to love each other forever, and I meant every word. We saved diligently for 2 years to put a down payment on our dream home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The 4-bedroom house with a spacious backyard was perfect for the family we planned to start. We spent weekends painting walls, planting a garden, and making the house truly ours. Those first 5 years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. About 6 months ago, things began to change subtly. Lynn started working late more often and attending weekend conferences that she had previously skipped. Her phone became a closely guarded possession, always face down and locked with a new passcode. When I asked about these changes, she would dismiss my concerns, saying I was being paranoid, or that her job was simply getting more demanding. My job as a software engineer required occasional travel, usually for system implementations or client meetings. This particular trip to Phoenix was supposed to last a week, but we finished the project ahead of schedule. Excited to surprise Lynn, I caught an early flight home without telling her. As I stood in our foyer, the sound of laughter drifted down from upstairs. A man's voice mixed with Lynn's, creating a harmony of betrayal that stopped me cold. I quietly made my way up the stairs, each step heavier than the last, my heart pounding against my ribs like it wanted to escape what was coming. The bedroom door was partially open. Through the crack, I saw Lynn, my wife of 8 years, in our bed with another man. They were sitting up against the headboard, sharing a glass of wine, both in various states of undress. The intimacy of the scene was like a physical blow. I pushed the door open. The hinges creaked, announcing my presence. Lynn gasped, nearly dropping the wine glass. The man beside her, tall with dark hair and a meticulously groomed beard, looked more annoyed than embarrassed. "James," Lynn said, clutching the sheets to her chest. "You are supposed to be in Phoenix." "Clearly," I replied, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the earthquake happening inside me. "Who is this?" The man extended his hand with infuriating confidence. Jackson Moore. "Look, this is awkward, but Lynn and I have been seeing each other for a while now." I ignored his hand. "Is that true?" I asked Lynn. She sighed, her expression hardening in a way I had never seen before. "James, we have grown apart. I was going to tell you when you got back. Jackson and I. We connect in ways you and I never did." "You connect," I repeated, the words tasting like acid. "In our bed, in our home. Do not make this harder than it needs to be," Lynn said, her tone frighteningly cold. "We want different things now." Jackson stood up, pulling on his pants. "Look, buddy, these things happen. Lynn and I are serious about each other. It would be easier for everyone if you just packed some things and gave us some space." "Gave you space?" I could not believe what I was hearing. "In my house, our house," Lynn corrected. "And technically I make the larger mortgage payments." That was true, but only because her marketing executive salary had outpaced mine in recent years, something I had always celebrated rather than resented. Until now. "You should go," Jackson said, moving toward me, as if he had any right to tell me what to do in my own home. "Come back when you have calmed down and we can discuss the logistics like adults." The unreality of the situation hit me all at once. I turned and walked out, not trusting myself to speak. I drove to the nearest hotel in a daze, checked in and sat on the edge of the bed staring at the wall until the sun came up. The hotel room became my sanctuary as I tried to process what had happened. I combed through memories of the past months, searching for clues I had missed. Late nights at work, mysterious weekend, trips, new clothes, and a sudden interest in fitness classes. The signs had been there, but I had trusted Lynn completely. Curiosity and a need for confirmation led me to check our joint credit card statements online. There it was, the evidence of her betrayal laid out in black and white. Dinner charges at restaurants. We had never visited together, hotel bookings on weekends. She was supposedly at conferences, and expensive gifts from stores I never shopped at. The affair had been going on for at least 6 months, probably longer. I also discovered text messages that Lynn had carelessly left synced to our shared tablet. Conversations with Jackson revealed an intimacy that cut deep, with references to their future together and disparaging comments about me and our marriage. It was clear this was not a momentary lapse in judgment, but a calculated deception. The next morning, Lynn called. Her voice was ice cold as she delivered what sounded like a rehearsed speech. "James, I think it is best if you find somewhere else to stay for now. Jackson and I need the house, and frankly, this will be easier for everyone if you just cooperate." "Easier for who, Lynn? You and your boyfriend. This is my house too." "I have already talked to a lawyer," she replied, ignoring my question. "You have 48 hours to remove your essential belongings. After that, I cannot guarantee their safety." "Is that a threat?" "It is reality. Things get lost during moves. I would hate for your precious comic book collection or those vinyl records to disappear." The line went dead before I could respond. I sat in stunned silence, the phone still pressed to my ear. The woman I had loved for nearly a decade was now threatening to destroy my possessions if I did not vacate my own home. Within hours, I learned that many of our mutual friends already knew about the affair. Some reached out with sympathy, but others had clearly chosen sides. Tara, who I thought was our friend, sent a text suggesting I should have been a more attentive husband. Kyle, my poker buddy for years, suddenly could not make time to talk. I called Marcus, my oldest friend from college, who had always been honest with me, even when it hurt. "I tried to tell you something was off, man," he said with genuine regret in his voice. "Remember when we ran into Lynn and that guy at the Riverside Mall? She introduced him as a colleague, but the way they looked at each other, I knew something was up." "Why did not you say something more direct?" I asked, hurt that he had kept his suspicions vague. "She had been telling people you two were having problems for months. Said you were emotionally distant workaholic, the usual justifications. I wanted to believe it was just a rough patch you would work through." The next shock came when I returned home to gather some clothes and found the locks changed. I still had a spare key hidden in the garage that Lynn did not know about, so I was able to get in, but the message was clear. I was being erased from my own life. Inside, I discovered that Jackson had already moved in some of his belongings. His expensive suits hung in my closet, his pretentious art books sat on my shelves, and his toiletries cluttered the bathroom counter. Lynn was nowhere to be found, but she had left a note on the kitchen counter listing items I was allowed to take, as if she were granting me permission to claim my own possessions. Later that evening, I noticed small withdrawals from our joint bank account. Nothing large enough to be immediately alarming, but frequent enough to add up quickly. Lynn was clearly testing what she could get away with. The harassment extended to Lynn's family as well. Her sister Brooke, who had always been cold toward me, called to tell me that I should be ashamed of how I had treated Lynn over the years. When I asked what she meant, she rattled off a list of fabricated grievances that Lynn must have invented to justify her affair. My parents offered their unconditional support when I finally told them what was happening. My father, a retired judge, advised me to document everything and consult with an attorney immediately. My mother offered their guest room as a safe harbor if I needed it, but I decided to stay at the hotel to maintain some independence during this crisis. At work, my concentration suffered severely. My boss noticed my distraction and called me into his office. To my surprise, he was understanding when I explained the situation in broad strokes. He offered me flexible hours and some personal days to get my affairs in order, support I desperately needed. The situation escalated when I returned to the house again to collect more of my belongings. Jackson was there lounging on our couch drinking my favorite whiskey. When he saw me, he stood up with an aggressive posture that made his intentions clear. "Lynn does not want you here," he said, stepping toward me. "I thought we made that clear." "This is still legally my house," I replied, trying to remain calm. "I have every right to be here." Jackson moved closer, invading my personal space. "Rights are for people who can enforce them. Are you going to enforce yours?" His meaning was clear. This was no longer just about emotional intimidation. Physical threats were now on the table. The breaking point came 3 weeks after my initial discovery. Lynn announced on social media that she and Jackson were engaged, complete with a photo of a massive diamond ring. She had not even filed for divorce yet. The comments section was filled with congratulations from people who knew she was still married to me. The next day, Jackson brought 3 of his friends over to the house while I was there collecting mail. They surrounded me in the driveway, making vague but threatening comments about what happens to guys who cannot take a hint. I recognized one of them as a local lawyer with a reputation for handling messy divorces. "You really should find another place to pick up your mail," one of them said as they towered over me. Accidents happen to stubborn people. I left without responding to their intimidation, but the message was clear. This was escalating beyond what I had imagined possible in a civilized separation. The very next day, a police officer named Thompson showed up at my hotel room. Lynn had filed a report claiming I had threatened her and Jackson. Fortunately, Officer Thompson seemed skeptical of the claim from the start. "Mr. Carroll, we have to follow up on all domestic complaints," he explained. "But between you and me, something about this one does not add up. Your wife could not provide any specific details about these alleged threats, and she seemed more interested in establishing that you should not be allowed near the house than in her actual safety." I showed Officer Thompson the text messages and emails I had received from Lynn and Jackson, as well as documentation of the changed locks and financial withdrawals. By the end of our conversation, he assured me that no charges would be filed and advised me to continue documenting everything. Just when I thought things could not get worse, Lynn accused me of stealing her grandmother's jewelry, a family heirloom worth several $1,000s. She filed another police report and threatened to press charges unless I returned it immediately. The jewelry in question was something I had never even seen before, and I suspected it did not exist at all. Through a mutual acquaintance who still spoke to both of us, I learned that Lynn was building a case to claim emotional abuse. She had apparently been telling people for weeks that I was controlling, jealous, and had isolated her from friends. The exact opposite of reality, but mudsticks, and she was flinging it liberally. The final revelation came when I was checking our home security system, which I could still access remotely. The cameras captured Lynn and Jackson in the kitchen, openly discussing their strategy to force me out completely. "Once we get him out for good, we can sell this place and upgrade," Lynn was saying as she poured wine for both of them. "His name is on the deed, but my lawyer says we can claim I made all the payments if he fights it." "Will he buy that?" Jackson asked. Lynn laughed. "Who cares? By the time it gets sorted in court, we will have moved on. Besides, I have been documenting his unstable behavior for months. No judge will side with him when they see how unhinged he has been." That audio recording changed everything for me. I was not just dealing with infidelity. I was facing a coordinated campaign to destroy my life, take my home, and paint me as the villain. The time for being shocked and reactive was over. I needed to start fighting back strategically. I contacted Amanda Wilson, reputed to be the most ruthless divorce attorney in the state. Her consultation fee was steep, but the moment I played the security footage for her, she took my case with evident relish. "They have made multiple critical mistakes," she said, typing notes as we spoke. "Changing locks, making threats, filing false police reports, and attempting to remove you from your legal residence. Not to mention the financial impropriety. We can use all of this." Amanda advised me to document everything meticulously and to appear to be backing down while we prepared our counteroffensive. "Let them think they are winning," she advised. "People get careless when they feel victorious." During my next visit to the house, I discovered something even more alarming. While looking for my passport in the home office, I found loan paperwork with my forged signature. Lynn had apparently taken out a substantial personal loan in both our names. The money was nowhere to be found in our joint accounts. Following Amanda's advice, I decided to appear defeated. I called Lynn and told her I was tired of fighting and would be moving my things out over the weekend. The relief and triumph in her voice was palpable. "That is for the best, James. You can leave your keys on the counter when you go." I spent the next 3 days preparing carefully. I inventoried all of my personal property, backed up financial records, and gathered evidence of Lynn's misconduct. I pretended to pack half-heartedly when Lynn or Jackson were around, making sure they saw me loading boxes into my car. The night before my supposed final departure, Lynn and Jackson threw a small party at the house. I drove by to see several cars parked outside, including her sisters and some of our former mutual friends. They were celebrating their victory, while I finalized my plans for the counterattack. My first move came at dawn on Monday morning. On Amanda's advice, I had already withdrawn half of our joint savings, which was legally permissible. Now, with proper documentation of Lynn's financial misconduct, the bank froze the remaining joint accounts pending investigation of the unauthorized loan and suspicious withdrawals. Simultaneously, I had a locksmith meet me at the house with the proper legal documentation showing I was a legal resident and owner of the property. The locks were changed once again, but this time, with keys only I possessed. I had carefully timed this for when both Lynn and Jackson would be at work. I spent the day methodically recovering items of sentimental and financial value that Lynn had tried to hide or claim as her own. I found my grandmother's watch tucked away in Lynn's jewelry box. My collection of first edition books had been moved to the attic. The signed baseball my father had given me was in a box labeled for donation. The next phase involved Amanda serving Lynn with divorce papers at her office. According to the mutual acquaintance who still spoke to us both, Lynn emerged from that meeting white-faced and shaking. The papers detailed all of her deceptions, included evidence of the affair, the financial misconduct, the false police reports, and the forged loan documents. They also made it clear that I was seeking full possession of the house based on her abandonment and misconduct. Lynn tried to return to the house that evening only to find herself locked out. When she called in a fury, Amanda answered my phone. "Mrs. Carroll, this is Amanda Wilson representing your husband. I should advise you that any further harassment will be added to the considerable list of actionable offenses already documented. If you need to retrieve personal items from the property, we can arrange a supervised visit." Lynn's rage quickly turned to panic when she discovered the frozen accounts. She had apparently promised to help Jackson with a significant debt, a commitment she could no longer fulfill. According to our mutual acquaintance, Jackson's ardor cooled considerably when the financial well ran dry. Within 2 days, he had moved most of his things out of the house and stopped answering Lynn's calls. The most satisfying moment came when Lynn's lawyer, the same one who had been among the intimidating group with Jackson, called Amanda to discuss settlement terms. His tone had changed from aggressive to conciliatory, acknowledging that Lynn's position was significantly compromised by her documented behavior. "My client is willing to consider a more equitable distribution of assets," he offered legal speak for admitting they were in a weak position. Amanda was unimpressed. "Your client has committed multiple acts that would not only disadvantage her in divorce proceedings but could potentially result in criminal charges. My client is willing to forego pursuing those charges in exchange for his terms being met in full." The resulting settlement was everything I could have hoped for. I retained the house and received compensation for the financial damages Lynn had caused. She was responsible for all legal fees and had to issue a formal retraction of the false claims she had made to friends and family. 2 days after the settlement was finalized, Lynn appeared at the door asking to talk. She looked nothing like the confident, cold woman who had dismissed our 8-year marriage so easily. Her eyes were puffy from crying, and her usual immaculate appearance was noticeably disheveled. "I made a terrible mistake," she said, when I reluctantly let her in. "Jackson left as soon as the money was gone. He was using me, and I was too blind to see it." "The way you used me," I replied, feeling no satisfaction from her misery. "It was not the same," she protested weakly. "I really thought I loved him. Can we just talk about trying again? We have too much history to throw away. The history you were so eager to rewrite when it suited you. The history you were willing to lie about to make me look abusive." I shook my head. "That bridge is not just burned, Lynn. You obliterated it." She left crying, but I felt no urge to comfort her. That man, the one who would have done anything to stop her tears, no longer existed. She had killed him the moment she chose to betray everything we had built together. The aftermath was not easy, despite my legal victory. I struggled with trust issues that affected every relationship. Simple compliments from coworkers would trigger suspicion about their motives. Friends inviting me out seemed to have hidden agendas in my paranoid thinking. Therapy became an essential part of my healing process. Dr. Garcia helped me understand that while the betrayal was not my fault, the healing was my responsibility. We worked through the anger, the loss, and the fear week by week, until I could think about what happened without feeling that burning sensation in my chest. I reconnected with friends who had stuck by me and formed deeper bonds with them. Marcus, who had tried to warn me, became an even closer confidant. We started a weekend hiking tradition that gave me something positive to look forward to. I discovered a passion for woodworking, finding therapeutic value in creating something beautiful and lasting with my hands. The garage became my workshop, and I spent evenings and weekends crafting furniture instead of dwelling on the past. My relationship with my family grew stronger through this ordeal. Sunday dinners at my parents' house became a cherished routine. My sister brought her kids over to the house, often filling it with the laughter and life that had been missing. Work became a source of pride again rather than just a distraction from my problems. The focus I regained after the divorce was settled, translated into a promotion and the opportunity to lead a new development team. Lynn eventually moved to another state. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had trouble finding another marketing position after losing her job during the divorce proceedings. Jackson apparently moved on to another relationship with a wealthy divorcee, continuing his pattern of financial predation. The house that had been a battlefield became a home again. I repainted every room, replaced furniture, and renovated the kitchen, erasing the visual reminders of the past. It became a symbol of my resilience rather than a monument to betrayal. The most unexpected development came 6 months after the divorce was finalized. I reconnected with an old college friend, Sophia, at a conference. Unlike my relationship with Lynn, which had been built on passion and intensity, my friendship with Sophia grew gradually and authentically. She knew my story and still chose to see the good in me. That genuine acceptance became the foundation for something new and healthier than I had ever experienced before. Looking back now, I realize that while losing Lynn was painful, it revealed a strength I never knew I possessed. I learned that adversity does not break you. It shows you what you are made of. I discovered the importance of enforcing boundaries and recognizing my own worth lessons. I wish I had learned earlier, but now carry with me always. I also learned the true meaning of justice. It is not about revenge or punishment, but about standing up for what is right and refusing to be a victim. By reclaiming my dignity and my home, I was not just winning a divorce case. I was rebuilding my life on a foundation of honesty and integrity. The most valuable lesson was learning the difference between loving someone and truly knowing them. Lynn and I had shared a bed for 8 years, but in some fundamental way, we remained strangers to each other. True connection requires vulnerability and honesty from both sides, something I now recognize as non-negotiable in any relationship. Have you ever experienced betrayal and found unexpected strength from it? Let me know in the comments below. If this story helped you in any way, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and growth. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that surviving betrayal is possible, and that sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the beginning of something better. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, your worth is never determined by someone else's inability to see it.